We appreciate your purchase and wanted to do something different to help you have a better garden. All seed packs basically say the same thing, something like this. In well-prepared soil, plant your seeds a quarter-inch deep after the danger of frost has passed. The only thing that really varies is the distance between seeds, maybe a little bit in the depth of planting, the distance between rows, and maybe they give you a vague map that tells you when to plant your seeds. This video does more than that. I'm going to give you about a 5-minute overview on planting and tending seeds in the garden so they germinate, grow, and get off to a great start. First, let me show you how to direct sow the seeds in the ground or a container using the flat to my right. And then I'm going to go over in more detail all the different steps that you really need to follow to have a great garden this year. So it's really more than just putting a seed in the ground and letting it go. I want to show you how to take care of the seeds so you have a great gardening experience. Cucumber plants are warm weather crops. They don't like the cold soil, they don't like the cold temperatures, and if a frost comes along, it's going to severely damage the plant. So you want to plant your seeds into soil that's about 60 degrees Fahrenheit or warmer. Here's an example of what your cucumber plants might look like about 2 weeks after germination. Cucumber plants are really easy to grow. They're going to germinate in anywhere between 5 and 10 days based on the soil temperature. You want to drop in 3 seeds into a depression that's a ½ inch to 1 inch deep, cover over, water in. They're heavy feeders, so within this space I would add 1 or 2 inches of manure or compost, mix it well into the soil about 6 inches deep. If you don't have that, you can use some organic granular fertilizer scattered around the area, mixed into the soil. Check out more of this video for more details on watering, feeding, and taking care of your plants. So the cucumbers will germinate quickly, like I said, 5 to 10 days. You're putting in 3 seeds. You don't want to wait around for plants that don't germinate. Thin them down to 1 or 2 plants. You're going to plant these every 18 to 24 inches, but cucumber plants are going to need to trellis. And the easiest way to set something up is to just get 2 posts that are about 4 feet to 6 feet tall, space them out 4 feet, and then from post to post, every 6 inches you can put string, you could put chicken wire, but you want to give them something to climb upward. That's the easiest way to take care of them. In a 4-foot space, again with spacing 18 to 24 inches, you could fit anywhere from 2 to 4 plants up that one fencing area, one trellising area for your cucumbers. Cucumber plants grow really well, but they are susceptible to diseases and to problems. So you want to get your first wave in when the temperatures are right, when frost is gone, and you put in your first wave of cucumber plants. About 4 weeks after germination, maybe plant another round of cucumber plants. And you can actually keep planting your cucumbers seeds every 4 weeks, really into August in many areas. When it's warm, cucumber plants can mature in 45 to 60 days, and they will, give you cucumbers that you can harvest. So continue to plant them throughout the season. This way, if you have diseases or problems that come in, it may kill off a wave of your cucumber plants, but your next succession of cucumbers could be healthy, strong, and you'll continue to get a cucumber harvest. Cucumber plants can also be grown in containers. I recommend 1 plant in a 10-gallon container or 2 plants in a 20-gallon container. If you're going to grow them in containers, you plant them the same way, but you're also going to have to make sure you put trellising into the containers for these to grow vertically. Check out the video description for more videos on trellising. Cucumbers are really easy to grow. Think about doing that succession planting because diseases and pests do come in. Please check out the rest of the video for more tips on starting seeds in the ground. Using the seed flat to my right, I pretty much showed you how to plant seeds in the ground or in containers. It's really not a lot of information that you find on the back of a seed pack. Pretty much it's loosen the soil 4 to 6 inches deep, mix in some compost, plant the seeds to this depth with this spacing after the danger of frost has passed. If that's all you need, thank you so much for your purchase, and please check out my YouTube channel, The Rusted Garden, for more in-depth videos on vegetable gardening. If you want to stick around for about 5 more minutes, I want to go over the information that I would have found most valuable when I first started vegetable gardening. I want to talk about frost dates and soil temperatures, basic watering and fertilizing, and basic information on starting your seeds indoors. You may want to start some seeds indoors, grow transplants, and get them out into the ground. I think this information will help you be extremely successful in your vegetable garden. Frost dates are really important because they really tell you when you can start your garden. Cool weather crops love the cooler weather. They can take a frost. Your warm weather crops cannot take a frost. They're tender, so if a frost comes, it's going to kill them off. And if you're lucky enough, you can grow the cool weather crops again in the fall. So the first thing you have to do is figure out when your last frost date is and when your first frost date is. And you simply put in where you're at, followed by the words last frost date, or where you're at, followed by the words first frost date. And you're going to get that, in an internet search, and it'll give you your average date of when those temperatures show up in your area. Once you have those dates, you can start planting your cool weather crops before the frost is completely gone, because it can take the frost. You want to plant your warm weather crops well after the frost date so they're not damaged. And then in the fall, you can start your cool weather crops while it's still warm, but they can grow into that first frost date. They can take a frost. So the frost dates are really going to give you an idea of how to plant your garden. So I know it gets confusing. So the short version is cool crops in the spring when frost is still around, warm crops later spring and summer when frost is gone, and then you can plant the cool crops again in the fall when the frost is returning. So now let's talk about soil temperature and how that affects your cool crops and your warm crops. Soil temperature can be confusing, but it's really important. And we're just talking about the top 4 inches of the soil. That's where you're going to plant your seeds, and you want the right soil temperature so that your seeds are germinating in anywhere from 5, to 10 days. If you put seeds into the ground when it's too cold, when they're put in the ground at a temperature they don't like, they're going to sit there. And if they're sitting there 2 weeks or 3 weeks, there's a greater risk for them to get a mold or a fungus, or to basically just rot and die. So timing is really, really important. Your cool weather crops like soil temperature that's 40 or 50 degrees. Your warm weather crops like soil temperature that's in the upper 60s, 70 degrees. How do you figure that out? Again, you don't have to go measure the soil temperature, and there's no place to look it up online. You're just looking for the nights to start warming up. So early spring, later winter, when the temperatures at night are getting into the 40 or 50 degrees, you're getting 50, 60 degree days with some rain. That's what's going to warm up the soil to that 40, 50 degrees Fahrenheit for your cool weather crop seeds. Same thing for the warm weather crops. As you get into spring or later spring, when the nights are getting into the 50s and 60 degrees, the day temperatures are getting into the 70s, you're getting warmer rains. That top 4 inches is going to get up to 60, 70 degrees Fahrenheit. Perfect time to plant your warm weather crop seeds. And you can just look at a historical weather map and just see, when the nights are beginning to warm up and the days are beginning to warm up. Now, why is this important? If you put a pea seed, for instance, into the ground when the soil temperature is in the upper 30s or 40s, the pea seed may sit there. It's not going to germinate. They're really susceptible to fungus and molds, and they're going to die off. If you put a warm weather crop like tomato or pepper seeds into the ground when the ground temperature is 40 or 50 degrees, those seeds are just going to sit there. So you're not really getting a jump on the season, and you're not really saving any time. They may sit there 3 weeks or 4 weeks until the soil temperature gets into the 60s and 70s, and then they're going to germinate. So there's no rush to get your seeds out and into the ground. You want to get them out there when the soil temperature is right for the cool weather crops or the warm weather crops. Please check out the video description for more detailed information on the topics that I'm talking about. Watering and fertilizing covers an entire year in the garden, but I just want to focus on what do you need to do at the beginning when you're putting the seeds into the ground. If you have compost, you want to put down 1 to 2 inches of compost across your bed and work it into the top 4 to 6 inches of the soil. You want that top 6 inches to 12 inches to be loose, especially if you're growing carrots or other root crops. You can also purchase organic granular fertilizer. It comes in pelleted form, and you would just follow the instructions, cover the growing area, and mix that into the surface. That will set up your bed. What I recommend is a water-soluble fertilizer. That's a fertilizer you mix in with water, and then you just water in the plant as it's growing over time. Water-soluble fertilizer is fertilizer, nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium that's immediately ready to the plant. So let's go back to the seed planting. Once the seeds are planted, as directed earlier in this video, Just gently water it in with a watering can or a gentle spray nozzle. Soak the top 2 to 4 inches of the soil. You really want the moisture in there when you put the seeds in the ground. Water will be absorbed by the seeds. That triggers the whole process for germination. And then you're probably going to want to water that planting area, your containers, every 2 to 3 days. If it's cooler, less often. If it's warmer, a little bit more often. But it's really important that you just manage the water well for the first really 2 weeks after you put the seeds in the ground. You want to make sure they get what they need with respect to water, germinate, set up the root system, and then sprout or germinate. Seeds will live off of the nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium that are already in the ground when they germinate, and they also live off the seed coat. So about 2 weeks after germination, you can mix any water-soluble fertilizer into your gallon watering can and just give your plants a drink. After that, about once a month, give them some water-soluble fertilizer, and that will keep your seed starch growing well, and that will help establish wonderful plants for the rest of the season. And again, just to review, water your newly planted seeds every 2 to 3 days based on temperature, and then after they germinate, water your seedlings in about 2 weeks with a water-soluble fertilizer, and then once a month thereafter. Thanks so much for your seed purchase. The biggest reason people start plants indoors is because they have a shorter growing season and they're trying to get the plants to grow 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, even 10 weeks indoors. So they put a more mature plant outdoors, and therefore the plant matures more quickly and they get a harvest sooner. The biggest issue with starting plants indoors is you have to make sure you start them in large containers so their root systems don't get root bound and coil in the container. And you want to make sure that that transplant is being planted into soil that has the right temperature for the plant. Just because you put a bigger plant out early doesn't mean you're going to get a bigger plant sooner if the soil conditions are wrong. So cool weather crops like to go into soil that's 40, 50 degrees. The warm weather crops like to go into soil that's 60, 70 degrees. So you do have to start indoors with a plan that in 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, they're going to be put out into the ground when the soil temperatures are correct. Thanks so much for purchasing the seeds. I hope this video gives you more information to help you be successful in the garden. Starting seeds isn't difficult, but there are a lot of nuances, and I just wanted to cover them in a little bit more detail than saying put the seeds in the ground 1/4 inch deep, 6 inches apart. Please check out the video description for more details on all the different things we talked about. I hope you have a wonderful gardening season, and please subscribe. My name is Gary Pilarchuk. I am the content creator of The Rusted Garden, and I have over 1,500 garden videos waiting on YouTube to help you out.